All right. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is Linda McKee. I'm a solution manager for SAP's Global Trade Services solution, and I'm very pleased today to have two deep GTS experts with us, Greta Villegren, who is the founder and CEO of one of our key GTS partners, Pinary, as well as Oliver Toll, who is one of our global solution advisors, who also has very deep GTS experience. I'll let Greta and Oliver introduce themselves.
Thank you, Linda. As Linda mentioned, I'm the CEO and founder of Pinary. We specialize in implementing all functionalities in SAP GTS, especially SPL. Our company is known to provide zero defect go lives and create innovative solutions for our clients. I hope that via this webinar, Linda, Oliver, and I can provide answers to some of your questions regarding SPL in GTS Edition for HANA. I'll pass it on to Oliver now.
Thank you, Greta. Yeah, as Linda already mentioned, my name is Oliver Toll. I'm based out of Germany. I'm a global solution advisor for SAP GTS and S4HANA for international trade. I used to be GTS consultant for the past 5 years. And yeah, Greta and myself, we are happy to guide you through the HANA search for sanction party list screening today. If you go ahead one slide, please. Thank you. I think you're aware that in SAP GTS 11, we did offer 2 standard and 1 optional search algorithm. There was the classic GTS search. We did have T-Rex and finally the HANA search, which was already available even in GTS 11, but it only worked in the connection of having a HANA database. Now moving to SAP GTS edition for SAP HANA, there are some changes, and one of these options have been retired and can also be found on the simplification list. And we will finally remain with 2 search algorithm for the solution. So as you can see on the screen, there is still the classic GTS search and the highly recommended HANA search. As mentioned, the T-Rex is part of the simplification and is completely retired. We want to clearly point out that each of the search algorithm works a bit different and must not be copied once moving from one to another. Once you apply the same parameter settings as with T-Rex, for example, GTS will produce a different outcome and you may raise questions about its reliability. If you move to the next, please, Greta. Thank you. Let's talk about the delimiters. SAP HANA search in GTS heavily relies on search capabilities in the HANA database. This is not GTS specific logic. So this is a functionality which was introduced in S4HANA as a HANA functionality. This for sure also indicates that the HANA search does not utilize some of the parameters you traditionally find in SAP GTS, such, for example, delimiters. As you know, delimiters separate a search string into separate words or tokens. Delimiters ensure that our business partner with the first name, space, last name is handled as 2 different search terms and not as one search term. In such example, the system sees space as a delimiter. Instead of GTS specific parameters, SAP HANA search relies on internal delimiters handling in SAP HANA. Anyhow, you still can change the default delimiters which are made available in the standard HANA search. Talking about standardization, I want to make you aware that the standardization means that prior of the fuzzy comparison execution, all characters are replaced by once lowercase characters, and diacritics are converted into standard letters. You may see in these examples in here that these German umlauts are adjusted, and the French accents and the Danish or Norwegian crossed out O is also converted into a standard O. Finally, it is possible to get a 100% match when comparing two unequal terms because the standardization process returned two identical terms. And if you talk about minimum length, this is an area where in the classic GTS search or in the T-Rex, there was an option of configuring the minimal length. This was an area in the list type level. Since HANA Search no longer has a need of generating search terms, these parameters are also no longer in effect when using SAP HANA Search. The missing minimum length is fully compensated through other SAP HANA Search capabilities, such as stopwords and term mappings, which Greta will talk about in a minute. You may have come across that in some cases, minimum length produces undesirable results, since a minimum length of 3 characters would completely wipe out SPL hits on business partners having a combination of 2-letter words only. Other example might be that a business partner like BM Holding SA would be reduced to holding only, and this would not produce a meaningful result. Short words are better handled with stop words, since the short words are not entirely
neglected.
Yeah.
Then move on to the next slide.
Yes, I think now it's your turn about the stop words.
Sure. Thank you, Oliver. So in GTS Edition for HANA, the exclusion text functionality is replaced with stop words. Although both the exclusion texts and stop words are considered while the search is carried out, the stop words, however, influence the final result in SAP GTS Edition for HANA. This means that when HANA Algorithm performs a search, then records with matching stop words get a higher score than the records with differing or missing stop words. So the question is, what are stop words? Stop words can be a word, an acronym, or even a phrase. For example, you guys are already familiar with this. Some of the examples are AG, LTD, LLC, or Aktiengesellschaft. In the example shown here, the SPL word is XYZ or XYZ, Aktiengesellschaft. And Aktiengesellschaft in our system, for example, is a stop word. The BPID2 in the table matches the stop word, therefore it gets a score of 1. Whereas the BP record 1, XYZ or XYZ AG, gets a score of 0.95 because AG is not exactly the same as Aktiengesellschaft. So to reiterate, stop words in GTS Edition for HANA are not completely ignored, and they are influenced, and they influence the final result. Although the functionality term mappings is slightly similar to alias terms, it has additional features in HANA. Term mappings can be used to extend a search by adding additional terms, such as hypernyms, or synonyms. So again, hypernyms, synonyms, and hypernyms are the term mappings that are added. These are the additional terms that are added to the original word. Hypernyms are words with broad or general categories. For example, car. Hyponyms are words that are more specific and fall under hypernyms. For example, VW Golf is a hyponym of the hypernym car as shown in the table below. Synonyms are words with the exact or nearly the same meaning. Term mappings can be grouped and utilized in different ways. So in GTS Edition for HANA, the benefit is that you can actually have different lists or different categories or groups of term mappings. For example, you can have a group of term mappings that is used for company names. And you can have a group of term mappings that is used to search transactional data. A lower is assigned to a record that is found because of the term mapping versus a record that is found with the original input. So for example, whatever your original word is, if SPL does not find a match with the original entry of the word, but it finds the match because of the additional term, which is a term mapping, then it gets a lower score. Whereas if it found the match based on the original word, then it gets a higher score. Additionally, term mappings are unidirectional. That is, that term 1 can be replaced with term 2, especially in the case of hypernyms to find hyponyms. For example, term car, as shown in the table here, can be replaced with VW Golf, whereas if bidirectional replacement is needed, for example, in the case of synonyms, then term mapping in both directions must be defined in the system. It is important to understand that when the stop words and term mappings are combined in a single query, the term mappings are applied first. So I'll state this again because it's important. It is pertinent to know that the stop words and the term mappings are combined in a single query. The term mappings are applied first. Then the stop words are applied to all the search term variations that are created by the term mappings. Now we'll go to the search parameters. This slide shows the backend where the search parameters can be configured. 4 parameters can be defined for each comparison procedure, which will influence the outcome of the final SPL hits. We will see in details of each of these parameters in the upcoming slides. So you can see here exactness, minimum score, and percentage rate of matching words can be assigned a percentage between 0 and 100. The indicator, although tiny but very powerful, is a symmetric search indicator which may or may not be selected depending on the company. Each company can decide whether they want to or they do not want to use the symmetric search indicator. This slide shows the stages of the screening process itself. The first stage, as can be seen, is called exactness. The second is the percentage rate of matching words. And the third stage is the minimum score. During each stage, the system determines if the percent match found by the algorithm falls within the criteria configured in the backend. If the match is below the configured threshold, then it is not a match. To get into more detail, as seen in the previous slide, exactness is the first stage of the screening process. Every word or a token, so we must remember this because we'll need it in the next slides. Word is the same as a token. Every word or a token in the search string is assigned an exactness or a fuzzy score. The higher the score, the higher is the similarity. The higher the score, the higher the similarity. Therefore, a score of 1.0 means the strings are identical, whereas the score of 0.0 means there is no match. The second stage of the screening process is the percentage rate of matching words. If the symmetric search indicator is selected or is on, Then both the BP and the SPL list words are used to calculate the percent match, providing two results. This is similar to what you have today in GTS 11. However, the algorithm or the selection criteria is slightly different in GTS 11 than it is in Edition for HANA. Now, if the symmetric search indicator is not selected or it is off, then only the BP search terms are used to calculate the percent match. As stated previously, a score of 1.0 signifies identical strings, and a score of 0.0 means no match. Stop words are excluded from this calculation, but as mentioned in slide 6, they influence the final result. Below are some of the examples of percentages for potential hits. A simple example is when 1 out of 2 words matches, it is assigned a 50% match rate. The third stage of the screening process is minimum score. The final score is calculated by using the exactness score, which is influenced by the stop words and the term mappings. So initially, during the calculation, the stop words are not taken into account. However, during the final score calculation, the stop words and term mappings influence the final result. Without the stop words and the term mappings, the formula can be expressed as shown below, which means to calculate the final score for each token, that is for each word in the names BP and SPL, calculate the score and square it. So the system will calculate the score for each of these and square it. Then it'll add up the squared scores of all the tokens or the words. Then it will determine the total number of words in either the BP name or the SPL name, whichever is larger. Then divide the sum of the squared scores by the maximum number of words calculated. Finally, calculate the square root of the results obtained. Simple, right? So business partners with the final score above the minimum score. So business partners with a final score above the minimum score parameter defined will be considered SPL hits, which will then result in blocked BPs and blocked transactions. It is important to note that unlike the exactness search parameter, the minimum score affects names and addresses as a whole and not the individual words. So I'll pass it on to Oliver now.
Thanks, Greta. Here to summarize the details we have been talking about, it is important to understand that there are various parameters which you need to create a reasonable balance. Thinking about tolerance, this might be influenced on the quality of your master data. Talking about potential variations and spellings, considering the necessary security level, very much depending which is this sensitivity and risk in your industry. For example, it makes a huge difference whether you are in food or defense industry. Please take into account whether your organization is able to handle the workload. All hits, and regardless this is the true or false positive, must be reviewed with required time and effort. As you have seen in the slides before, the 4 major influence factors are exactness, percentage rate of matching words, minimum score, and symmetric search. They all do have key impact to the number of hits and false positives. So it is recommended to carefully think about how to use them, which percentage rate may lead to results which are covering needed compliance requirements, but still allows your organization to keep control of it. If you go to the next slide, thank you. once talking about the UI and the user interface, you will find that some transactions have not been moved to Fiori apps, but either have been consolidated, retired, or completely newly designed. On the next two slides, we want to highlight by colors what might have happened to transactions being familiar to you on your daily operations. So the yellow marked transactions are now made available in Fiori apps. The gray marked transactions have been moved to SAP menu itself because they are not part of the daily operations and are handled as reports or background activities. The red ones are completely retired and won't be found in SAP GTS edition for SAP HANA. And yep, finally, the screening result is a difference once you compare the GTS 11 and the GTS edition for SAP HANA. The screening results are displayed differently. With HANA search, there's no more separation of search term and original term. When comparing a business partner with a sanctioned party list entry, the matching address details are no longer displayed with percentage match rates, but are now illustrated in bold. At some extent, this will reduce distraction because of trying to understand and recalculate the percentage. That's also shown in that slide in here. And finally, for additional learning, we also have the two links, which we attach in the next slide. If you want to learn more about the SPL screening results and different comparison procedures, or you want to learn more about the HANA search, these two links will guide you to the SAP help, and you can walk them through and find additional details. Sorry, Greta, I didn't tell you that these three slides are belonging to each other.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that was my mistake, because yeah, I should have told you earlier, because I thought about taking them all in the same time, because they're no, sorry, I was wrong. I missed one slide.
No,
Sorry for that.
No, that's
Okay.
great. And those links at the end are going to be extremely helpful. This is definitely a complex topic. You guys have done a great job in trying to simplify what is often a bit confusing, especially if you're used to using one of the previous search algorithms and the HANA search is brand new to you. So really, you've presented it in a way that I think some of the previous users or users of the classic or T-Rex can much better understand how this HANA search algorithm works. That though there's complexity, we also feel there's a lot of power and value there. I know both of you have dealt with customers who are making these changes to the HANA search. So your experience and being able to share some of that experience and guiding folks with this webinar is greatly appreciated. So again, Greta with Pinary, can't thank you enough. Oliver, always available to help with some of our customers and our prospects, and both of you with your deep knowledge. It's greatly appreciated, and I have no doubt there may be some follow-up questions to this session, and we certainly look forward to getting those. But thank you both so much for your time. Any final closing thoughts from either of you?
Thank you, Linda. I would just like to add and encourage people that GTS edition for HANA will definitely be much better and will make their life easier, not only the look and feel, but also the algorithm in the background.
Super. Yeah, I know there's questions just because things don't look the same. The results aren't identical to previous results. So this really helps folks understand and hopefully can start trusting these results and really leverage the advantages that can be found with this search algorithm. So again, thank you both, Greta and Oliver. And good luck to folks with taking advantage of the very powerful HANA search algorithm within GTS. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.